Hello, everybody. This is Mary Davidson, one of your co-hosts, and we are so excited to be with you today for this episode, which we do every single year. So we're really excited to have this coming back again this year. We are doing a season 4 guest compilation where we ask our guests 2 questions that they can reflect on from this year. One is about growth, and the other is about going into 2025. What's something that can make it amazing for them? We love hearing from our guests, and this is a really fun, quick way to hear some snippets from them. And so let's go ahead and get into the episode.
Welcome to the Better Events Podcast. Join 2 event strategists, Logan Clements and Mary Davidson, who believe we can all create, host, and attend better events. In this podcast, you will learn about event strategy and actions that you can use today as an event host, planner, or manager. Hear directly from the people who are creating innovative and inspiring events today and tomorrow, and grow your business along the way. Now, let's get started, and thanks for listening to the Better Events Podcast.
Hi, friends. Welcome back to another episode of the Better Events Podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Logan Clements, and I'm joined by fellow co-host Mary Davidson. And before we jump into this episode, we do want to remind you that we are taking a break for the holidays. So this, Mary, is our last episode of 2024. How'd we get here? And with that, this is our last episode of season 4 of the podcast. But listeners, don't fret, don't worry. We'll be back with season 5 starting Wednesday, January 8th. So that means you have 2 Wednesdays of no new episodes, but that's a good time to go back and re-listen to any you missed. But we will be back Wednesday, January 8th with season 5 of the podcast. And Mary, we are currently doing something very exciting today. So do you want to tell our listeners about how they could potentially join us tomorrow?
Absolutely. We are in the thick of the Better Events Conference. It's happening today in person. So we'd love for you to still come virtually if you haven't gotten your ticket yet. Tomorrow is the virtual day, December 19th. You can still get your ticket. Tickets are open for you to come join us virtually. The full virtual day, there's going to be so much content. You are not missing out by not being here today in person. Virtual is like a whole separate event almost, with so many new ways to interact, people to meet, and content to absorb. So we would love to have you there. You can get your ticket at the link in the show notes or at bettereventspod.com/conference.
Seriously, listener, don't miss out. It's going to be great. This episode, though, is one of our favorites. I feel like it's a end of year episode where we go back and we ask all of our guests that we had on this season to answer the same questions. And if you have missed any years from the past, you can go back and listen to our other past guest compilation episodes, which is a great way to kind of scan the menu of who you might want to hear more from and what episodes to go back to. But those episodes are episode 134, episode 85, and episode 34, all linked in the show notes of those past guest comps from different seasons. And we wanted to touch base with our guests from this year, season 4. And this year we had, Mary, 13 episodes featuring guests. Very exciting. And we asked all of our guests to answer 2 questions. 1, how have you experienced growth personally or professionally in this past year? And 2, words of power and manifestation work. So what is something that would make 2025 amazing for you? This could be a dream client, a new skill, an event, a personal milestone, anything. And these 2 questions, while we asked our guests to do it, we want you listeners to get yourself reflecting on your year and hopefully encourage you to go back and listen to some of our guests' episodes in case you missed them or you just need a refresher. And that'll take me right into our first guest. Our first guest featured today is AJ Steinberg from Crafting Events for Younger Generations. She submitted her answer in writing, so I'm going to read that for her. She wrote, 2024 was a huge year for me and Queen Bee fundraising. There were a lot of great events that I worked on and did a lot of impactful consulting for organizations. However, I learned that there is a limit to the amount of work I can do and still keep a decent work-life balance. So my hopes and dreams for 2025 are to take a deep breath, be a little choosier with the clients I take on, and write down my specific 2025 goals in January so that I can review them at the end of the year to see if I've turned my goals into reality. And I really want to take better care of myself mentally and physically. Thank you, AJ. That was, I feel like a lot of that resonated with Mary and I. But Mary, you have our next one.
I certainly do. So our second guest featured today is Jackie Baker from Event Sourcing 101. It was a great educational episode. So let's go ahead and hear from Jackie.
Hello, Jackie Baker here from Spark Events HQ. Happy to give my thoughts on 2024. This year has been one of amazing growth for me, really bringing in a team of 4 people to work all the time on Spark events and delivering great results for our clients. We definitely moved into some different types of clients. We were able to bring our rates up because we're giving them more of a full value proposition, which is really exciting. So I'm super, super grateful for that. For next year, I think the word for me is going to be collaboration from an internal perspective with our team, and really being able to come up with great ideas to solve solutions. And of course, from a business owner perspective, it's going to be growth and stability. Really bringing in the revenue to support all the great people who work for Spark Events and make sure that we continue to do the stuff that we love. That's for me.
Thank you, Jackie. She had such a good episode too. I feel like on event sourcing, which depending on when your cadence is with your events, I feel like is something that comes, at least for me, top of mind January, because I've got all my spring clients who want to make sure things are locked in. So that is definitely one to go back and listen to. Our next guest that we are going to hear from is Laura Yarbrough Lloyd. How to plan a retreat and a Event Pros on the Go 2024 retreat recap. So let's hear from Laura.
In 2024, I've completely shifted how I approach my goals, and I'd say that this is where I've grown the most, because I used to think about success as a steady climb where I get a few more clients each year, slightly increase my revenue each year, and improve my skills little by little. But now I'm thinking more 10 times that, and not just what's the bigger picture, but what's the huge picture, what's the boldest version of my career and my life and my impact. So I've started focusing on the kind of success that almost feels out of reach. And as someone who works at major iconic events and helping event pros do the same, dreaming that big is essential to me. So that growth has not only changed how I think, it's also opened up new opportunities and given me new ideas that I would have never considered before. And as far as 2025 would be amazing if I could look back and call it my new era. I want to look back and see that I've stepped fully into my role as a thought leader, not just someone who works at iconic events and helps event pros do it as well, but someone who's actually changing the event industry, changing specifically the major iconic events sector within the events industry. I want people to think of me when they think about pushing boundaries and elevating what's possible in the events world, and that I'm not just about doing great work. I'm about making an impact that's inspiring others and setting a new standard for what iconic events can be and what event careers can be. So that's the kind of year that I am already manifesting for 2025.
I loved that. I love that clip, by the way. Good job. Go, Laura. Now I'm like, she's going to take next year by storm, and now I'm only motivated to do the same. So I love that clip. Our next clip is from Erica Kastner, who was our guest from episode about parenting and working in events. So let's go ahead and hear from Erica.
Hey, so how have I experienced growth this year, professionally and personally? I think this year I have learned the importance of taking time to reflect, to rest, which as a small business, you probably never feel like you have time to rest. But, in a year that I tested a lot of things, in a year that I had what felt like the best event I've ever done, I've had the worst event I've ever done, to have such highs and lows in a single sort of season, was definitely something I learned from. It is something that there were lots of moments where I had to sort of reflect, which in a lot of cases, I don't feel like I usually have time to do. Because, for me, a lot of times it's finish an event, on to the next one. But this year I was able to sort of learn through reflection after each event of what was great, what wasn't, what would I want to do better, what are the things that I definitely want to take with me to the next event. And especially even between the different types of events, because we do things that are social, that are nonprofit, that are sports related, being able to take the learnings from one and kind of shift them across the board was really, I think, a big learning for me this year. And then in thinking about 2025, putting it out there to the universe that we as a company are able to increase the number of clients, right? But for us, it's the different types of clients. A majority of our clients are wedding clients, but we also work with nonprofit organizations. And this year we started actually introducing more social events. So I would love in 2025 to see us do more social events like bar and bat mitzvahs, wedding showers, baby showers, birthday weekends, other reasons to bring people together, because that's why we're here, right? Is to help our clients to build out these experiences. And for me, I think in 2025, I would love to see us do more of these, I'll call them newer types, because, nonprofits and weddings are sort of our bread and butter, but I'd love to see us really step strongly into the more social event space. So yeah, I guess we'll talk to you at the end of 2025 and I'll let you know how it goes.
I love Erica manifesting some expansion into different areas of events. I know there's one person, listener, if you were listening to our mailbag episode last week about social events and party planning, Erica's a resource as she expands into it and does weddings and things. So that's a good person to go back and listen to her episode and then connect with her on her different social media. But our next guest is Carla Kobos Hall, where we talked all about burnout and boundaries in the event industry. So let's hear how Carla experienced growth this year.
This past year has been a journey of growth for me, both personally and professionally. Personally, I've taken the time to truly get to know myself on a deeper level, to truly understand how I show up as the best version of myself. I've been working intentionally on my personal boundaries and learning to prioritize myself as a whole. It's been about becoming more conscious of who I am and what I need to thrive, which has been very transformative. Professionally, I've embraced growth by enhancing the brand. I've stepped more into the role of a trailblazer in the industry, creating spaces for awareness and collaboration. One of my proudest achievements have been launching initiatives like focus groups and the Phoenix Collective, which is a Facebook group designed to be a safe space for event professionals to connect and share. At the same time, I've been focused on ensuring I show up as the best version of myself when planning events and having meaningful conversations with clients and colleagues. This dual growth, both personally and professionally, has allowed me to align my purpose with passion, and I feel more empowered than ever to continue making a positive impact in the industry. Words truly have power. And I believe manifestation works when paired with intentional action. For 2025 to be amazing, I envision myself stepping onto more stages to bring much needed awareness to the issue of burnout in the event industry. It's my goal to really spark meaningful conversations about how we, as planners, can shift the narrative and really challenge the current norms that often lead to overwork and exhaustion. I also see the Phoenix Collective growing into a powerful community where planners feel safe to voice their experiences and speak up about the impact of burnout. It is important for planners to know they're not alone and that their stories have the power to inspire change. Through this collective, I want to teach others that it is entirely possible to plan events without sacrificing their well-being. Ultimately, 2025 would be amazing if it marks the beginning of a real industry shift where we prioritize balance and sustainability and where planners feel empowered to thrive both professionally and personally.
I love that. Yet again, I'm like motivated just to. Carla really is wonderful in this space. So definitely check out some of her stuff about burnout in her episode on our podcast as well. Thank you, Carla.
Our next guest is Tony Gavilanis from episode 166, Practical Ways to Keep AV Costs Down. Let's hear from Tony.
Hey friends, this is Tony Gavilanis, and I'm excited to tell you that yes, we have experienced growth both professionally and personally this year. Our company has done more revenue than we ever have, but most of all, it's been larger projects that are more substantial And we've been able to kind of trim out the noise, all things considered, which has been an extreme boost for a lot of the projects that mean the most to us. Personally, I feel like my team has been able to allow me the space to actually start going on a lot more walks and just get moving in my day. I think we all spend way too much time on Zoom, so that's been a super positive thing. And what would make 2025 amazing for me? Now, that would be if we continued to snowball all of the projects that have kept us moving as a company for 20 years, but if we were able to convert a lot of this project management work that we do into full-on audiovisual production. We have two kind of realms, but I think that being able to not only be a consultant in that sense, but be the vendor and consultant, we'll really be able to mega launch the year in 2025. So exciting news with 2026 around the corner. I hope to be back and letting you know about all the fun stuff that is happened at that point. And until then, happy holidays, everyone. Take good care.
Thank you so much, Tony. Mary, over to you.
And our next guest is Liz Lathan from Future Trends and Engagement at Events. So here's Liz.
Hey, Liz Lathan with Club Ichi here. The question is, have you experienced growth personally or professionally this last year? 100,000 gajillion % have I experienced growth professionally this past year. We have really discovered the meaning of the word focus. I would say that in November of 2023, we visited the Heineken Museum in Amsterdam. And at the end of that tour, I looked at Nicole, my business partner, and I said, Nicole, this guy makes one product and he makes 800,000 of them an hour. Why are we trying to do so much? And now it's November of 2024, and it's taken us a good 11 months to really narrow down and figure out exactly what focus means for us. And I think we've finally figured it out. So I'm really excited about 2025 because we've grown professionally and we've kind of figured our lives out. The second question, it says, words have power and manifestation works. What would make 2025 amazing for you? For me, our focus is Club Ichi, the #1 place for B2B event marketers to connect. And what would make my year is to go from the 260 premium insiders that we have now to 1,000 insiders. And I know that our market has over 40,000 corporate event professionals in it. And if we can get 1,000 of them inside our community, helping each other, up-leveling what corporate events really means, and really setting the trends, not reading the trends, that's what we're hoping to accomplish in 2025. And I think that we can do it. I'm really excited about next year. And I've now officially spoken it out loud, and it shall manifest. Thanks for letting me do that. It was so fun to be on the podcast, and I look forward to seeing you guys soon. Bye.
I love Liz is putting some key metrics to manifest for next year. We know we love community, so excited to hear how you're continuing to focus and build that community next year. All right, listeners, our final guest that you're going to hear from today is Gabby Rabuccio, Mastering Relationships in Events. And this is an episode I know I'm going to want to go back and re-listen to next year just to remind myself about some of her key takeaways. But let's hear from Gabby.
Hey guys, this is Gabby Rabuccio, the founder of Pro Event Tips. I think this year for me has been all about betting on myself and putting myself out there. So I started the year in a corporate position and I was having an impact, but not as big of an impact on the industry as I knew that I could. So I started to put myself out there. I started to make a lot of new connections throughout the industry, and I have met some incredible people. This world of events can sometimes feel so lonely. So by pushing myself and betting on myself a little bit more, I have been exposed to not only some incredible people, but some incredible conversations that have really pushed my knowledge and my creativity. And I'm super thankful for that. 2025 is going to be a great year for me because I am going to take all of the connections and conversations that I've had in 2024 and I'm going to turn it into content. I'm finally going to put my passion on paper, so to speak, and release it to the event professionals of the world. I am going to give tips, tricks, tools, experiences, whatever I can to help fellow event professionals level up their stakeholder relationship management. And I genuinely cannot wait to see the impact it has on helping set boundaries, set clear expectations, avoid burnout, and just generally enjoy the industry overall.
I love that, Gabby. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm actually really inspired by what everyone is saying. So I'm enjoying this. Hope you all are as well. Now we can give our reaction. So I just like genuinely, like I was saying, I've been really enjoying hearing from all of them. I've taken some notes and kind of talked about like themes and things like that as I've been listening. But so Logan, we can both kind of brainstorm on this together, but what are some reactions that you had? The themes that I noticed were reflection, choice, change, and basically just like trying to shape the industry. It sounds like there's some magic makers and movers like that are happening right here. And so it's been cool to hear that. But what would you say, Logan?
Yeah, I think my overall takeaway was just how different everybody's answers were. And that just like should encourage you listeners that there isn't one way to measure growth. There isn't one way. And then you're just hearing everybody's like manifestations for next year. Like they were all different, granted, all very positive, and that's the point of manifestations, but like very different and sometimes very specifically different in how folks wanted to manifest things. So I think my first takeaway for listeners is just to be inspired by the variety, knowing that whatever your instinct and answer to those two questions is, there isn't a wrong answer. Like it's pertaining to you personally.
I love it. And so let's go ahead and reflect on our answers from these questions as well. So Logan, I'll pass it to you first, and then we can rotate back and forth from there. But how have you experienced growth personally or professionally this past year, Logan?
Yeah, I think I have finally found a cadence that works for me with my events. This is something that I think I've talked about in past seasons since experiencing burnout back in 2021. I feel like I continued to boomerang between too busy and not busy enough and kind of going all in on one or the other. And I don't know if my cadence is totally replicable for what I did this year for next year, but I do think I figured it out. And so I've grown, I feel like a lot more comfortable in what a cadence of events and what does busy, quote unquote, look like for me and my energy levels. And that's something that I know will continue to evolve and change, but I feel like pretty settled looking back at, I had a really crazy spring, pretty busy summer, but there were peaks and valleys to it that helped me find moments to recharge. How about you, Mary? How have you experienced growth personally or professionally this year?
Yeah, well, this is what I love, that growth means something different to everyone, because I feel like I've been able to grow in like I say that time management is my hardest thing, but I think I've also grown in that sense a little bit as well. It's just something that will take me a long time. So, like how I'm spending my time and almost like trying to like relax a little bit more or calm down a little bit more or delegate more, like those things just to free up myself a little bit more and kind of paint the picture of the life that I actually want to have. And I feel like that's what I've been able to make steps towards this year. I think it's like a continual process for sure. But and then also just like being able to actually like physically grow our team at EP Events. Like we hired our first event manager, which has been so incredibly helpful and really game changing in how we manage events. And so that's just from like a business perspective, a really important stepping stone to me that I never thought that I would be able to achieve. And so I have to be able to reflect on that and kind of see that growth in that sense as well. And so those are kind of the top two things in mind.
Yeah, again, growth. It's something we're exploring today with the Better Events Conference, and tomorrow with our virtual day. We are, expanding on all the different ways you can have growth. I wanted to just go back to what Liz said too. of her point of talking about her growth this year was talking about focus and what that means to her and her team is if they focus on something. I think that is so important for you listeners. If you are having trouble kind of trying to figure out where you grew this year, how can that word focus help you looking ahead as you or if you're reevaluating priorities, like what does that look like to you? Because I think that was just a really good, I don't know, for me that clicked as a good reframe. I don't know. Before we move on to our second question, Mary, do you have any other ones from what we heard that you think would be helpful for listeners when thinking about growth?
I think we covered them, but I like double tap on the focus. I wrote that one down. I might have to steal it for next year because I love that intention of focus. So I agree.
All right, Mary, what about your answer to our second question where we say words of power? We want to manifest. What is something that would make 2025 amazing for you?
I think I've mentioned this in other episodes, but truly I find like sincere value in being able to improve the services that we're already offering. So just to maintain and improve. Obviously, I want to grow, get more clients. That's absolutely the goal. I want to get more involved with nonprofits and fundraising and be a thought leader in the fundraising space as well as the event industry. But truly, just being able to do what we're already doing better, I think is a really significant and important value add that I don't want to just like blaze through it and do everything kind of okay. I want to improve with what we're doing. And so I don't know if that necessarily is a manifestation, but maybe it's more of a goal. I don't know, but like that's what I'm feeling right now. I just think it's really important. What about you, Logan? What's something that you want to make 2025 amazing for you?
I would like to book one new international event for next year. I love continuing to grow by booking new people and new events, and international stuff just makes my heart happy. So I'm going to book one new international event for next year. And then it is a creative project that I was so confident I would get off the ground this fall, but now is looking like a 2025 project. And that is my show caller series that I want to launch on my YouTube channel, where I sit down and interview show callers. I think it is a twofold process because I think a lot of people in general, the event industry and beyond don't know what show callers do. So this would kind of shine the limelight on them. And then I just come across working with just some amazing people who sit in the show caller's seat. And so it just gives me an excuse that I get to get some time with them and ask them questions and talk to them and maybe help them, book some new business. So it is something that I'm really excited about, but just one more creative project on top of this and my other YouTube content I do that I thought I'd be able to do this fall, but it's looking like that'll be something. I'm going to launch it in 2025. I'm going to keep it actionable. We're going to manifest it. It's going to get launched. It's going to be great.
I love that for you, Logan. I'm going to hope you stay accountable to that. I would love to see that myself. So we are wrapping the end of season 4. I don't know how I feel about this, but it's all good things. So do we have any final thoughts as we wrap this season, Logan? We've had so much content. We are over 180 episodes altogether, which is nuts. So, and there's still more to talk about. That's what's crazy. We haven't even like covered some of the basics yet. So
I know. Any final thoughts on season 4 is such a broad question to me that I'm like, oh my gosh, we are in season. Like, it sounds weird when we tell people we have a podcast. Mary and I had this also happen to us a couple weeks ago that someone recognized us but didn't know from where. And both of us looked at each other and I'm like, do we say podcast? That's weird. Like, but also we've been doing this long enough. And sure enough, listeners, she knew us from the podcast. Like she knew our voices and then I guess our faces maybe from some social posts or something. But that is still funny to us. And yet looking back, I do tell people when I say it, I go, no, we've been in season 4. Like we've been doing this. We have over 180 episodes. Like we are podcasters at this point. Not full time. We still have our event jobs, but yeah, Mary's like, yeah. But like, I'm just looking back at like our episodes from the start of this year of just talking about like trade show tips that we did with like Lynn Edwards, our favorite books, entertaining event ideas from live sports. Like all this stuff feels like forever ago, but I also know it's valuable and a lot of what we do is evergreen. So that's just kind of cool. I don't know. I look back and I'm so proud of all the content we've made. And yes, Mary, we have so many more episodes we could do.
It's exciting though. We literally have a list of potential guests and potential episode topics. That's huge. It just gets bigger and bigger every year. So we're going to be here for a while, hopefully, right? And we are so excited to cover some of these topics coming up in 2025. So just thank you so much for sticking with us through season 4.
Yeah, and on to the next one. But one call to action before you leave, listeners, is we do want to encourage you to leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts. This seems so simple, but this is really impactful on how we get ahead of like in front of new listeners. It helps our searchability on the podcast app. So if you're on, I'm going to talk about Apple, Mary's going to talk about Spotify, but on Apple Podcasts, if you click on the Better Events under the title of this episode, like if you're in your app right now, then you need to scroll down to the ratings and reviews, and then you can easily just tap 5 stars. And if you want to write a review, we love hearing from you, but it's that easy. It takes like 4 seconds, and that just helps other folks like yourself find us.
And on Spotify podcasts, you can go to this episode, click see all episodes at the bottom. That's the phrase. And then select about at the top. And then click on the 4.8 stars and then select rate show and give us 5 stars so we can bump up that average a little bit. 4.8 is really good though. It's fun to see we get more reviews as time goes on, which just helps build the credibility of the podcast. So if you've gained any value, please leave us a star or a review and we would super appreciate it. And that brings us to almost the end of our episode. We have our bonus tip from Logan today.
Yeah, end of the year is a good time to do a social media audit, a website audit. And this one is for any companies or organizations or event planners, give this to your sponsors. Pro tip is if you're sponsoring or exhibiting at an event industry conference, or I guess I could open this up to any conference, make sure your company is listed on LinkedIn and that your social media accounts on your website are up to date. This is something that I know many of us are guilty of letting our website go out of date. Things change. But I thought of this pro tip as I myself was looking to connect with some of the companies that I met with at a recent event a couple months ago, and I couldn't find them on LinkedIn. And then I went to their website and I tried to follow them on social media and all their links were dead. And it was one of those that I went, I guess it's just not meant to be. Because for me, how I network is I have started adding people on social media because I use LinkedIn as a search tool. So it just seems like such a low effort thing that they have lost me reaching back out to them. And I don't know how many other leads they miss out on. So make sure you're listed on LinkedIn personally or as a company and that your social media links are up to date on your website.
Great tip. I need to do that. So thank you so much, Logan. And thank you so much, everybody, for listening to another episode of the Better Events Podcast. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn at Better Events Pod. You can email us at bettereventspod@gmail.com. You can also connect with us on LinkedIn directly. Logan and I love to hear from you. Just send us a little note letting us know you listen to the podcast. And if you want more Better Events content, make sure that you join our private community on Substack. And friendly reminder, you can still join us for the Better Events Conference virtual day tomorrow, December 19th. It's not too late. The link is in the show notes. Thank you so much for listening to another week at the Better Events Podcast. We will be back with you in 2025. We're going on our little break and our little hiatus like we do every year. So thank you so much again. We'll see you on January 8th, 2025.